name is Samson Mataure, better known as Sam Mataure, from Zimbabwe. I was born on the 8th of August 1968 in a small beautiful town on the eastern part of Zimbabwe called Mutare in Sakuva, in the ghetto in Sakuva. That's where I was born, that's where I grew up. I went to school at Sakuva Primary School, up to high school in Mutare, at Mutare Boys High School. And then as I was growing up, I fell in love with playing drums, especially playing it on tins and boxes. And then as I grew up, I started seeing drums at in the bands in our city, in Mutare. And then I fell in love more and more, wanting to play drums. And then as I grew up, when I was growing up in our town, in our city in Mutare, the only artist that my parents ever allowed me to go and watch at the local hall called Bite Hall was the late Dr. Oliver Mtukudzi. So I grew up listening to his music with his albums in the house, and after I finished high school in 1985, I failed high school and then decided to go into music full time. It was tough, but I decided to carry on with music. And then eventually I started working with Dr. Oliver Mtukudzi, before I was called Dr. Oliver Mtukudzi. And then just as a drummer, with the manager, David Metcalf. I loved the music. I loved Tuku's music, Oliver Mtukudzi's music. I loved it very much because I grew up listening to it. I loved it. So I started playing with him. And then after about 4 years of playing with him, I left to go to South Africa because I wanted to grow as an individual, as a drummer. I wanted to grow as a drummer. So I moved to South Africa, to Johannesburg. In Johannesburg, I met a lot of artists that I was playing with, artists like Judith Sepuma, and then there's my fellow brother, Louis Mhlanga. And then after about 4 years of staying in South Africa, I came across my big break. I met Miriam Makeba at soundcheck at a venue where we were supposed to play. I was playing with another small band, and then the drummer didn't come for soundcheck, and then they asked me to play just for soundcheck. So after we finished soundcheck, she came to me and she says, "Who are you?" Then I said, "My name is Sam from Zimbabwe." And he says, "Okay, look, I like how you play. Make sure tomorrow you come just in case my drummer doesn't come." I said, "Okay." Next day I came. I played with the small band that I was playing with, and then luckily her drummer was there. He played, and then after about 2 months, they called me to say, "Listen, there's a concert in Durban." So there was no time for me to rehearse. So I was given CDs and DVDs by a manager, Graham Guffelen. By a manager called, his name is Graham Guffelen, who was also a good friend of mine. So I spent the whole evening rehearsing, listening to the music. Next day, we flew to Durban. We did sound check, and I had a bit of chance to play the music. I was afraid because this was Miriam Makeba, the big artist. Was a big artist. So that day I played the first song. It was fine, no problem. Second song, third song. We got to the fifth song, and then we took a break. So during the break, she came. She gave me a hug, and then she says, "Thank you." And then I said, "But I haven't finished." And she says, "No, I'm just saying thank you. You play very nice. I like how you play." And that's it. And then from that moment, I relaxed, and I was very happy with myself. And after the show, she came. She hugged me again. She says, "Now you're in my band. You are hired." I was very excited. I wanted to tell you that I'm not playing with Miriam Makeba. So for the next 5 years, I toured the world with Miriam Makeba. It was incredible. It was one of the best experiences ever, working with this great woman. She was very humble. She was a superstar, but she never behaved like one. She was very cool, very humble, but she could get angry. She would get angry at times. And then whenever she'd get angry, she would say, "Call Graham, call Graham." She didn't care whether it was midnight in South Africa. We had to call Graham. If there would be one slight problem, we had to call Graham, and Graham was a fighter. Graham would fix things immediately. And then after meeting in 2000, end of 2006, I went to Zimbabwe for Christmas. And then in January, when I was about to go back to South Africa, I met at dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Mtukudzi at the house. And then they said to me, listen, there's something that we need to ask you. And I said, yeah, what is it? And then Oliver says, can you come back and work with me as my manager? And I thought, okay, all right, let me think about it. But in my head, I'd already decided, like, yeah, manager, yeah. With no management experience, I said yes. So I didn't go back to South Africa. I stayed in Zimbabwe, took up my new job as Oliver's manager. For 1 year, I wasn't playing drums with him. I was just a manager. And then after that, after 1 year, I went back to play drums for him. So I was a drummer and manager at the same time. It was easy for me to handle because the band members I was working with, they were very cool, very, very easygoing, very nice people. And from 2007 to 2017, I worked with him as his drummer and manager. And we toured. I tried to pick up as many shows as possible all over the world. And we traveled quite a bit, a lot. He was a very nice person to work with, very easy to work with, very easygoing, no stress, very easygoing, very friendly, but very hardworking. He was the most hardworking musician I'd ever worked with. Very hardworking. He never said, I'm a superstar, so he always believed in working. On stage, he would be dancing, singing, just happy, performing his music. And then in between working with Oliver, I was also working with other people. I had a chance to work with Yuma Sekela quite a bit. So the one thing that I did with Yuma Sekela, we did a concert in Soweto. I was playing drums for him and Oliver. It was very interesting. It was a lot of pressure because Yuma, I'd never really played with Yuma Sekela at that time. So then he says, look, you just have to see what you can do, boy. He said, just call me boy, see what you can do. Make a plan, play. If you make a mistake, he says, I'll shout at you on stage. So keep your eyes open, look at me, listen to me. I said, yeah, sure. And then in 2010, I'd invited him to come to Zimbabwe for my jazz festival, Harare Jazz Festival. Him and Lady Blake Mambazo, they came down to Zimbabwe for the Harare Jazz Festival, which was my festival, and they put up a brilliant show. So anyway, playing with Yuma Sekela was fantastic. Working with him was just fantastic. He was a very good friend, full of stories. You tell a lot of stories, sad stories, funny stories, but mostly funny stories most of the times. And then one day I was in Zimbabwe, and then he called me, says, listen, Mataure, listen. I said, yes, sir. He says, I want you to come and play drums on my album. So by Monday, I was back in Johannesburg, went to the studio, and for the next 2 days, I put drums on his album. So the album came out, it was called No Borders. There were other great musicians on the album, like his best player, Fana Zulu, was there. And other musicians were on the album. Very beautiful album. And then unfortunately, a few years later, he passed away. Very sad. We miss him very much, And then 2019, Dr. Mtukudzi also passed away. And then again, during all these years, I met other musicians that I worked with, like Angelique Kidjo. I had a chance to perform with Angelique Kidjo in South Africa. And also there was Soweto Gospel Choir that I worked with. And then I'd done, a few years earlier, when I was still with Dr. Mtukudzi, I'd gone on this production called Acoustic Africa with Habib Koite and Afio Bakum. Acoustic Africa concerts. It was a European tour. Very interesting, very interesting concept that I loved very much. So I played with Habib. And then when he came to Zimbabwe, we played together, Habib with his band, with Mr. Mtukudzi. We performed together at Haifa in Zimbabwe. And it was 2017, yeah. And then there's another legend that I worked with. Her name is, and unfortunately she's late now, Dorothy Masuka. She's born in Zimbabwe to Zimbabwean parents and Zambia, I think Zambian father. But very interesting lady. Her songs, most of her songs they became very big. They were also done by other artists, like a song called Kaoleza that she wrote, that Yuma Sekela re-recorded. Became very popular, Kaoleza. And also some of the songs that she wrote for Miriam Makeba that became very popular indeed. Hapo Zamani was Dorothy Masuka's song. And Miriam Makeba always acknowledged that this song was written by a friend of mine, Dorothy Masuka, from Zimbabwe. And whenever my name was announced during the introductions, just to hear that my name, on drums from Zimbabwe, Sam Mataure, I'd feel like getting up from the drums and like go, yeah, But of course I couldn't do that because I had to keep playing, But in my heart, I'll be so excited, very happy to hear my name being announced and being from Zimbabwe. It made me feel very happy, And then I met other musicians like Richard Bonner, an incredible bass player. He's a monster on the bass. I fell in love with his music, and this is why I'm here, because I came from Zimbabwe. It took me 12 hours to get here by bus from Zimbabwe last week to come for the Richard Bonner concert, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed it very much. And thank you to Alliance Francaise for the complimentary ticket. Thank you so much. So I go back to Zimbabwe with a very happy heart that I've been to a beautiful, well-organized concert by Alliance Francaise Zambia, Lusaka. Congratulations for hosting a successful concert. Hope we get to see more concerts coming this way. And to Zambia, thank you so much for the attendance, for the turnout. It was a beautiful turnout. People came out in their numbers. It was a beautiful evening. Well done to Zambia. Well done to all those who were involved. Some of the sponsors. Thank you so much for this concert. So, on this note, I say I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I got to work with great artists like Dr. Mtukudzi, Yuma Sekela, Miriam Makeba, Steve Dyer, Louis Mhlanga, all these guys, all these people that I've worked with. I say thank you for affording me the opportunity to play drums and work with you, for trusting my playing and for believing in me. I say thank you. And I thank God for the gift to play drums and work well with people. I say thank you, Lord. Yeah, thank you so much.